Let's go ahead with this presentation, and today I'd like to show you two things actually. First, the studio session. So we have the real tools, and I'd like to talk about some elements we can find in a studio and work out with them in 3ds Max. So we'll have light sources, some deflectors and blends, of course backgrounds. I like to also mention the light rig, and we'll try to model some lights and studio elements in 3ds Max, which will be a basic introduction in the lighting for the lecture second. So in the next step, I'd like to talk about some real photos I have taken in Singapore, which is that's a pretty crazy town really. But anyway, as you know, or as you probably know, very often I like to work on dusk and night shots, and I do it a lot in my commercial work, and this is a great inspiration. So I'd like to show you some characteristic elements we can use later on in our tutorials and also webinars, which will be during this session, supported with Evermotion and Chaos Group as well, with some gadgets and Evermotion collections. So stay tuned. I will let you know exactly what you can win after the third assignment. In the final assignment, all will be clear and the winner gets it all. So let's go ahead and start with the studio session. We had the session at the KDF studio in Gdynia, Poland. Very nice studio, maybe not so big, but still nice equipment, and definitely a good atmosphere also for work. So we have here basic elements we can find in the studio, and first what you can see is the background here in the center, and it's like I don't know, roll over carpet, and you can choose the background color, also like gray, pure white, or dark gray, even green for keying if you want to. And we had here a gray background for the start. And yeah, number one, that's the background. You can choose, of course, the color. And number two, that's one of the soft boxes. It's pretty white, and we can use this softbox to emit the light, which will go very white and spread all over our scene. And we have few other boxes like number 3, which are pretty narrow and can give you a more focused but still a soft light. And number 5 is the gray background, and 4, these are some sort of a curtain which will keep the light, for example, that will lead the background, will keep the light away from the model, which will be lit with the soft boxes in the front here. Okay, so we have also a total different setup for some macro photography, like this very spicy Campbell soup can. And basically this is a plexiglass with some lights from the bottom and behind, and one softbox here on the left side, and that's it. That's the setup. And thinking about the studio lighting, you can also start to think about how you would create the lights, or the type of the lights we see here in the studio in 3ds Max, because this is crucial when you want to have a proper lighting. And in the end, we have also a pretty nice doll. That came out bad maybe, but still it's a good model to take some test photos and practice with the light. And by the way, I'm showing this image here because there is one interesting effect here. We can see in the square of dots. With a very bright light, we have here the lens distortion, and it's sort of a flare here on the edge, and actually it's called diffraction of light on the edge of the wall. And you can of course do that with for example optical flares in After Effects, or with no light factory in Photoshop, or just paint this with a soft brush with green and maybe some blue colors in the end. Okay, so that was the setup I was presenting in the intro. So we have here a nice chair, not so big, and this is maybe not the best model to practice the light, but because we are talking about architectural visualization, I wanted to try out something familiar. But anyway, we'll try something else also in a few seconds. So first, what we have here, we have only the background light which stands behind the curtain, and as you can see, this light emits only the samples on the background, and the object here in the center, which is our focal point, will be not affected by the light. Now we have enabled light on the left side of our object, and now we can see that it's pretty much brighter than on the first image, and we have here some reflections on the steel elements, and in the front we have here a blend which should basically reflect the light towards the chair. Here we do not have any reflective surface, even though we could have. So this deflector will use or will work actually as a diffuser. I don't know if that word exists, but I hope you have understand the idea. So this will actually not focus or not reflect a very strong light, but it will deflect a soft light. And now we have three source lights, and we have number 1 on the background, the third also on the background, and the second one from the previous setup here on the left side. And that was pretty much the setup. Now we have here lights from all sides, also from the right side, and with a neutral color or white balance. The previous photographs were taken with my camera and with auto white balance, and they were more like looking white. And here we have a white balance, maybe not the best one, because the light is looking pretty yellowish, and you know, depending on what you're searching for, you can change this. Also, when you're shooting and saving the files into raw file, you can also edit this in post-production without any loss of quality. So this is not so important when you shoot with a digital camera, but it will be important when you shoot with a visual camera, for example very physical camera. Okay, so that's me once again, the bald guy with semi-sized deflector, and you already know what we can do with this. And this is a good example. We have here our model and 2 light sources, and on the left side we have light coming out straight from the right side, and on the right side we have only light from the top and from the left side, and we can see the difference, of course. Still we have soft light, no hard reflections, which is cool for post-production. For example, we can pretty easy make this background more even looking, so that's good. And about the deflectors with a reflective surface, now we can see the difference. So we have here in this area pretty strong shadows, and with the same setup and with the deflector we can see that we have added some extra samples, and we have a nice smooth shadows here in these parts. And this is a way you can also add samples to elements in your 3D scenes which need some more extra samples. So you do not necessarily need to add an extra light. Sometimes you can add an object that can reflect the samples. And just one word about rigging the camera is that in the studio you can rig all the lights to your camera and shoot your scenes with a fully triggered environment, which makes the shots so perfect. Of course, in 3ds Max we do not have this problem at all, so really cool to shoot in such an environment. Well, let's try out some 3ds Max lights first. And I have here a scene which you will also receive later on during this training, and a few lights here inside. And just to start, let's go to the, so you can see. Let's go to the light panel and let's choose some V-Ray lights. And we can choose here the V-Ray light as a plane, but we can also edit this and change it to a dome, sphere, or even a mesh. Anyway, let's start with a V-Ray plane object. And this is a great light that can actually simulate the softboxes, because it's emitting light in an even way from all the surface. And we have here a few options we'll speak about in the next lecture, so let's drop it for now. And just a quick kind of making of from the studio. And we have here a few lights setting up coming out from the window, few or so inside that will simulate lights here in the kitchen. And we have some extra fill lights for reflection and extra samples which will fake the deflectors, for example, or even some extra light sources we would add when we were shooting a professional session. And these are small lights with pretty strong multiplier, and you can see that we have here affect diffuse speculars and reflections. And because of the size of the lights, in most cases they will be not visible in reflective areas, but still you need to make a test, because sometimes you can have in a reflection a nice circle, a ball of light, let's say, and this is probably not the situation you would like to have. Okay, so now I will press Ctrl-I, delete all the elements here in the scene, and let's create quickly a studio environment like presented on the real footage. So I start with a plain object. I will add only one segment, convert this, I try into editable poly. Okay, we have here the vertices. And this will be our screen, so all we need to do now is to add some chamfering to make it smooth. And we'll set up the light to lead the chair in the scene. And what we're going to do now is to add a camera, so we'll choose V-Ray physical camera, and from the modify panel We'll change a bit the focal length. It's 40. Well, let's make it 50, and we'll change the f number to 1.4. It's a classic Canon 50 lens with 1.4 light. And we'll change the custom balance maybe to pure white. Shutter speed, let's see, 50. That's okay. We have here the vignetting somewhere also. Right, it's on. Okay, good. Now let's check the position of the camera. It's laying on the ground, so I will drag it a bit up, and now right click and select the camera target. Move it also to the turn. Let's go back to the camera. It's looking not bad. Now let's add some smoothing to the background. So I will choose polygons and press Ctrl A and auto smooth, and press Shift F to display the save frame, so you will see the actual ratio of the image that will be rendered. Let's go ahead and create some shaders. We'll use only pretty much white shader for the background, just a little bit reflective. So we have here the reflection. It's a fall-off map, and we have black on front side, and maybe we'll change that a bit. Maybe let's do a bit reflective and less reflective on the back. So we'll fake the Fresnel. And for the task rendering, let's lower the subdivisions to 8. And let's drag this material to the background. Once we have done this, we need some lights. So first I will create a V-Ray light, and I will choose a plane. Let's edit the options. So press 4 or go directly to the modify panel. And we have here the intensity. I will start with 50 maybe. And the color, we can go to the mode or temperature, and you can see that using the slider here, when you lower the temperature, the color will also change. And the rule is that the higher temperature, the light will be more white. So from red till blue, and it should go actually to white. So let's leave it a bit orange, and I will move the light here on the side. Maybe I will change a bit the dimensions. So let's do it a smaller softbox here. I will change also in the customize unit setups. I will change it to meters. Okay, so we have 1 meter on maybe 0.3. Looking good. Okay, and this will be the softbox which will lead the scene. Actually, only our background. So we'll use 2 softboxes on 2 sides. I will choose instance. Okay. And we'll build also sort of the curtains like truly black to keep the light from those soft boxes only on the background. And I just created a spline, and we'll extrude the spline. So extrude 3 meters, for example. That's kind of good. Let's go ahead and create another line here on this side. Good. And we have the curtain. Pretty cool. Let's convert this into a table poly. I'll just flip the normals so they have same directions on the two objects, and we'll add a shell modifier, maybe 2 centimeters, that will be enough. And now we'll create a new V-Ray material, and we'll just go from default to gray to black. Okay, let's check the camera. Okay, and let's go to the rendering setup. So we have here 1000 on 900 pixels. That's okay. Now the indirect illumination, let's set it on, and we'll choose irradiance map and light cache. Let's set to default low and show calculate phase. And in the light cache tab, we'll go lower with the subdivisions for now, so 600, and we'll choose also calculate phase. And here we have the number of passes. That's important to know how many passes you should set up here. In my case, I have 12 codes on my CPU, actually 6, but we have like sort of HT technology in the i7, so we have 12 threads. So I will type 12, so we can use the 100% of the CPU power during the light cache calculations, and that's okay. Now let's go ahead and change the color mapping from Linear maybe to Reinhardt. So maybe 1.1 and 0.5. That's okay. We'll stay for now with the linear gamma. So we have also here in the gamma LUT we have the 1.0. For now, we'll talk about LWF, so LWF, sorry, later on during our lectures. So let's start the first draft rendering for the studio setup, so we can see if the intensity of the background light is good enough. So F10, and we hit render. Oops, that's some old stuff. By the way, you can experience the same problem when you will open some of our models in the collections, so do not worry. All you need to do is to check that all the render elements will be not saved. So and it's all good. Now we see that in the preview the image is way too bright, so we're gonna clear this. Maybe we'll choose a lower resolution. And now we have two ways. We can start with camera and change the settings inside of the camera. So let's set, for example, oops, this shutter speed to, where's the shutter speed? 150. And by the way, if you want to play with the F number, of course, this will also change the light, and while increasing this number, you need to lower the shutter speed to keep the same lighting, because if the number is lower, more light will reach your camera. In the real life, the matrix of the camera, and I just use the default Canon 50 lens setting, so 1.4, and this lens and this F number will allow you to receive a very nice depth of field effect, because with higher numbers the depth of field effect will be not so visible like with the lower ones. Okay, so we have changed the shutter speed, so from 50 to 150, and let's check out the result. Still too bright, so let's cancel this, and maybe I will also enable the frame buffer and choose the camera. Hit OK. Okay. Still bright. Still, we can play a bit with the frame buffer if you want. So we have here the basic features like exposure control and our levels. Still, we need to fix this inside of our lights. So let's go ahead. Okay guys, so let's lower the intensity of the lights to 30, and we have here in the environment we have a black color, so nothing from the outside will reach our scene, so make sure it's totally black. And we do not also override the environment, so let's render. And it's looking not bad at all. So let's go ahead and add some other lights. Okay. So I will create a new softbox, same light. They are all visible, and I will also add the start with irradiance map for this light. You will find out why during the next lectures. And maybe I will set the intensity of the lights to 15. So it will be just a fill light, and I will copy this softbox and change the size of the softbox a bit. So this can be a squared one, and change the origin to local. Pretty cool. Okay. Seems that the light is a bit too strong, and we can also see we have anti-aliasing problem. What we can do is try to work in frame buffer to correct this, for example. Still, we have a lot of options here. And you can see that we have our float very high, and of course the 8-bit colors are 255. That's why we have here these anti-aliasing problems, because all the area is just burnt out. there are ways to fix that. Okay, so that's not bad. Still, the light is too strong, so we'll change the huge softbox strength maybe to 5. Let's check out now how it's gonna look. I think it's much better than the first setup. Now we see the light is smoother and we don't have strong burnt outs. Still too strong, so let's set to maybe 2. And let's check some render setup features. So we have here, maybe we'll lower also the light cache to speed up the rendering just a bit. Now we have here adaptive subdivisions. We would like to have some more details. If you have in the scene a lot of small elements, then it's better to choose the adaptive DMC, which will be faster in that case and also more accurate. And we'll change the filter to a hot filter called Cutable Round. That's okay. And we'll also clamp the output and we'll enable the subpixel mapping and hit render. Okay, looking good. So the studio setup has been finished, and now if you like to render out some very reflective elements, so for example, let's go ahead with a sphere. Choose a sphere somewhere here maybe. Let's try to make a nice composition. This one will be smaller. One here in the back, also one small. Okay, and we'll add a steel shader with some anisotropy reflections. And let's check out the result. Okay, it's done. It's looking pretty funky, and more about a proper use of shaders, steel shaders, and anisotropy we'll learn during a different lecture with advanced shading. So stay tuned and let's check out the next videos about the cameras, the features inside the real cameras, and then we'll compare the cameras to the very physical camera. And once we have done that, we'll go straight into the CGI meet. So stay tuned and I see you next time.